everyone, Lou here. For those new here to this channel, I'm actually a huge fan of dolls. If you see my Instagram, TikTok, and other social media, you'll notice that I tend to post a lot of doll photography. It's a big hobby of mine, so I thought it'd be fun to combine my two favorite subjects by exploring dolls made for anime. Okay, so a huge disclaimer here. What I mean by dolls for anime, I mean dolls produced in promotion for an existing anime and not an anime made to promote a doll. As much as I fucking love Lika-chan, she was a doll first and had some anime production second. So when finding the first dolls made for anime, this was a tricky subject. Unlike Europe and America, where archives of dolls produced after the 50s is relatively easy, the same, I think, can't really be said to Japan and other countries due to language barriers, and the natives of said countries being doll enthusiasts being kind of a rare or niche hobby. Also, plush dolls don't really count here because, well, they're no different than a teddy bear. As an example, doll collectors will show you there were baby dolls in the 1930s made for both Dorothy and Snow White to promote both movies, but a doll for Princess Knight before the 2010s? Yeah, trust me, I tried my best, but I could not find a doll of Princess Knight from that era. See, I started with Princess Knight in my research because a large majority of anime before Osamu Tezuka birthed the first shoujo ever made, it was largely geared towards boys or a general audience. Unlike today, where dolls are obviously for everyone and are somewhat marketed towards everyone of all genders and ages, dolls around this time were marketed towards young girls, so Princess Knight was the farthest I could go back. I mean, Astro Boy doesn't exactly market for fun hair play, and the only dolls for Speed Racer were made by Mattel for the live-action movie nearly half a century later. Moving to the 70s, in 1972 in particular, a shoujo called Chappie the Witch was made and is considered the 5th magical girl ever made in the history of anime. So she's got a lot going for her. It's about a girl named Chappie who comes from a world of witches or something, but leaves to the human world so she can have lessons of the day and fix basic life problems, I guess. Her design is so damn cute, so you'd think she'd translate well into doll form, but I could only find one doll from a figure database website. According to this website, it's a talking doll from 1972 and seems to have the basic 4 points of articulation. Except unlike today, where all those joints pivot at least, these limbs can only move back and forth. There was also a more conventional doll made by Takata and seems to share the same body and head sculpting as Lika-chan, so this doll seems to have technically more articulation since Lika-chan dolls have a wire in their arms and legs to bend instead of a more conventional joint system like most dolls have. I mean, it's an okay one compared to the all-plastic one and doesn't talk because talking dolls can be just a smidge annoying, but her face looks like she's hiding a pretty dangerous secret, so that's a minus here. Rosen Versailles is one of the biggest shoujo from the 70s and pretty much birthed many character designs and story elements we all love today in shoujo. Princess Knight may have walked, but Rosen Versailles ran. Considering this series features beautiful clothing and characters with long flowing hair, I figure this would be a pretty easy one to market dolls for. Now, I did find a 12-inch doll of Oscar and what seems to be a 6-inch doll of Marie Antoinette. But every time I found listings for these dolls, the listings wouldn't mention when they were made. I mean, they seem pretty old judging by the condition and printing of these boxes, but I don't know. Both of which are pretty interesting dolls because they were made by Takata according to the listings I found online, who are the same company behind Lika-chan. Unlike Lika though, these dolls aren't designed the same way. The Oscar one in particular is very interesting to me because it seems to have a plastic upper torso to move the arms up and down, but a cloth waist with no wires to bend and pose the legs. I mean, from what I can tell in the box, these vintage Rosen Versailles dolls are really rare and ridiculously expensive, so finding someone sharing them out of the box is impossible for me in particular because I don't speak Japanese and Google Translate is sometimes a bitch to work with. In modern times though, Rosen Versailles has received quite a few contemporary dolls though. Specifically, I wanted to highlight the resin BJDs by Volks because wow, these are fucking beautiful, but cost as much as a used car. With the 50s, 60s, and 70s out of the way, we move on to the 80s, which let me tell you was a wild decade for anime. Like, the amount of time every Tom, Dick, and Harry was making an anime is pretty much overwhelming, and so finding dolls for this era was also extremely overwhelming. Starting right in 1980, we have dolls for a magical girl called Lala Belle, the magical girl. Basically, it's about a girl named Lala Belle from another world who comes to Earth to stop an evil wizard from collecting a bunch of evil magical objects with the power of friendship or something. These dolls are actually a lot better looking than the other vintage dolls I've been looking at. This doll was made by Poppy, and despite looking pretty much identical to Alika-chan, she wasn't, and seems to be similar to the Chappie doll in terms of articulation with the wire bendy arms. This is a very cute doll though, and seems to have multiple different versions with different outfits that I'm assuming were in the anime series. I mean, this is looking at the product, so like, I didn't really have time to watch a fuck ton of anime for this. There was also a baby style doll made of Lala Belle as well that is just too fucking cute. Like every vintage doll, she can only swivel her arms back and forth, but on the side, she has a wand and necklace for the kids so you can pretend to be Lala Belle, I guess. I don't know, I thought that was a cute touch. Finally, for Lala Belle, I found another baby style doll, but this one seems to be incredibly small, like 4 inches maybe? I think this one can only move its legs too because it's just so small, but I could be wrong. But I was also very impressed that there was a whole database website for Lala Belle. I didn't realize this had like a fan base. In 1982, we have dolls of the classic, but also hated by its own production staff, Mimki Momo. It's a magical series about a girl named Momo who's from another planet but comes to Earth to help people find happiness and make their dreams come true by turning into an adult for like 20 minutes. Yeah, this is basically a series meant to encourage young girls to play pretend careers at home so they know what they want to be someday. The first Mimki Momo doll I found is from 1982 and is pretty basic and tiny. Sculpted top and seems to be very limited movement, except this one I think doesn't have removable clothes for kids to play dress up with, and her top is fuzzy, which from personal experience is going to look like a fucking disaster if it's just sitting on a shelf. Finally is a baby style doll made the same year that's slightly better. I say slightly because it looks like you can dress her up and move her. She even comes with a necklace of herself for some reason. I think it's supposed to be a bracelet for the kid, but it's still cute. And considering Momo is an extremely cute character, I'm surprised the dolls for her don't match that cuteness very well. It's kind of it for Mimki Momo dolls, which is weird because the series seemed perfect for a fashion doll given how Momo turns into an adult with different jobs, so like, hello, that's A+ fashion pack marketing right there. In modern times though, Mimki Momo still doesn't have any dolls, but does have nicely made stationary figures, so that's nice at least. Out of quick curiosity though, I did look if Urusei Yatsura had any dolls because Lum is just such a pretty character, and apparently a figure doll was made, so that's interesting. This basically means she was a figure but she had real clothes. Also, her face looks slightly terrifying. Speaking of nightmare fuel, there was also a bendy doll of Lum that was fucking horrifying. So we're gonna move on to another anime because she definitely looks like a different kind of doll, if you catch my drift. Now, with the 80s out of the way, the 90s is where we hit an overwhelming amount of anime that, honestly, I'm probably gonna forget a lot of shit here, so whoops. Like, seriously, there is so much anime from the 90s, you could spend the rest of your life watching only 90s anime. Like, holy shit, bro. Anyway, our first 90s doll doesn't really come from an anime, but did receive an anime adaptation in 1995, so I'll say it obviously counts here. Street Fighter 2 is one series I was never expecting dolls for, but this video has been full of surprises. Obviously there's dolls of Sakura and Chun-Li, both of which look extremely awkward, specifically Chun-Li in their attempts to make her big personality in doll form. These dolls seem pretty basic and don't seem to have bendy arms, which is weird because, like, this is a fighting game, so you think these dolls could pull off some epic poses, but apparently not. Now, are you guys sitting down for this one? In the 90s, Hasbro owned the American licensing for Street Fighter, and so I thought it was a great idea to make G.I. Joe dolls of Ryu and 3 other characters. But I want to talk specifically about Ryu and this fucking masterpiece here. Also, yes, I am absolutely calling G.I. Joe's dolls because everyone knows that they are. They are literally dolls and only called action figures because society was just not ready to handle that men can like dolls too. That and don't lie, G.I. Joes were Barbie's secret lover when Ken was away when we were playing with our dolls. We all know that. Look, I know localization in the 90s for Japanese products was basically Americanization, but this is fucking comical. Like, why does Ryu look like Rambo? When the fuck does he have a dragon launcher, combat knife, and katanas? I mean, did the designers at Hasbro think the Hadouken was just throwing grenades really slowly or something? Also, this is Street Fighter. Where the hell are Ryu's gloves? Seems this doll is alright in terms of quality. This doll had the basic 5 points, but could also pivot on the elbow and had a turn and twist waist or something, so it's neat at least you could do somewhat of an action pose. Moving on, in 1994, the anime series Sailor Moon basically blew the fuck up in Japan, and even in the US, where it distributed to the major anime boom of the 90s. Now, in terms of Sailor Moon dolls in the 90s alone is both overwhelming but also extremely rare these days. The main ones in Japan were made by Bandai, which is a toy company basically owned by Toei Animation, who own the anime rights to Sailor Moon. And these are very cute dolls. I believe these are also an Aliko-chan style body with bendy arms and legs, but I could be wrong. If you thought these dolls were cute, get ready to wonder what the hell happened with this one. In the 90s, American toy company Irwin and the general marketing team for Sailor Moon in America thought the characters were too cute looking and instead made their own dolls to show these girls were, quote, fighters and ready for battle. These are the ugly face Sailor Moon dolls, and wow, these dolls are fucking awful. I mean, hair and clothing wise, they're actually pretty nice, but face wise, holy fuck, I've seen better sculpted faces on something made by small children. Safe to say these ugly face dolls were critically panned by parents and kids, so a few years or months later, they made these pretty face dolls that closely resemble the ones in Japan. For the first time in this video so far, I actually have a doll I'm talking about in this video. I have the 1990s Pretty Face Mercury doll, and I have to say these dolls are pretty sturdy and not bad quality. These dolls do have one up on the other vintage dolls in that they have full rotation in the arms and have bend and snap knees. Though these dolls are both sturdy and fragile at the same time, if that makes sense. The tiara on the head has a high chance of snapping, as does the leg joint and the knees due to the stand that these dolls come with, but the rest of the doll feels like it could take a beating from a rough kid. These dolls are also pretty tall compared to a Barbie's proportions, so I barely managed to get this vintage Barbie dress to fit my Mercury. In modern times for Sailor Moon, pretty much every doll company in Japan has made dolls for them. Groove, Volks, and Bandai have all made beautiful modern adaptations of our favorite Sailor Guardian of Love and Justice. Moving on from one magical girl series about a girl kicking ass with LGBT themes to another, Revolutionary Girl Uttana is not a surprise that there were dolls for. I mean, have you seen Uttana and Anthy? They're literally gorgeous characters, so of course they're gonna have dolls. In this case, I found one doll of Uttana from the 90s that looks pretty alright. In a twist in this video, this doll was actually made by Sega of all things. I mean, Sega is known for making anime figures already, but I didn't know they made dolls too. This doll seems to be very well made though, but does have the basic 5 points once again. What I found very interesting though is that there is no doll for Anthy. Again, I suppose that could be they didn't want to spoil or reveal anything, so they took the safe bet of just making dolls of Uttana, I guess. In modern day though, pretty much all the big doll companies in Japan have made dolls of Uttana. A-Zone and Groove did really great jobs, but I think Volks killed it with these dolls of Uttana and Anthy because they look so beautiful, it's just ridiculous. Next is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which pretty much helped birth the anime boom of the 90s with its Kubrick-esque storytelling, teenage angst, and I guess showing teenagers why simping is bad or something. Despite the message of Evangelion being the idolization and waifu culture is a bad thing, Evangelion's marketing team went in the complete opposite direction by slapping Rei and Asuka on literally everything, even now. For this though, I found these Lika-chan style dolls from Sega of Rei and Asuka. Rei looks a little funky and her neck looks too long, but the Asuka one looks pretty cute. I like that these come with their uniforms instead of just shitty painted plug suits, because I actually really like the Evangelion uniform. I found another doll of Asuka in her uniform that looks much higher quality and actually pretty accurate. This one even came with the gym uniform, which I thought was a pretty nice thing to include as a second outfit. In modern times though, there are quite a few Evangelion dolls, especially in the bigger BJD scale. One company called Vispo did a BJD of Asuka, but I don't know much about it, so I couldn't find anything on it. There was a Barbie-sized Asuka doll made by Volks back when they actually made dolls in the 1/6 scale range, and the Dolphy Dreams of Asuka and Rei. The Dolphy Dream ones in particular are actually pretty old by Dolphy Dream standards, to a point where I don't think they can even use newest Dolphy Dream parts if you ever needed to repair one. My personal favorite though have always been the Pulip dolls made by Groove in 2007 and 2020. I have the Asuka doll from 2020 that a very close friend of mine got me for Christmas last year. That's literally my pride and joy. I did have to rebody her though because I want to preserve the plug suit, and let me tell you, that plug suit deteriorates like fucking crazy over time. What I always found weird though is that none of these Evangelion dolls include Shinji or Kaworu, since they're also pretty major characters. I mean, sure, Shinji would look plain, but at least it would complete a trio. Out of all the anime here I was looking at from the 90s, Serial Experiments Lane having a series of dolls was the last thing on my list here. I mean, I guess I get it because the fashion choices are so late 90s and early 2000s that it hurts, but it still surprised me. There was a whole series of Lane dolls in different iconic outfits that were actually fully posable and came with cute accessories. I believe as this doll series went on, the articulation on the doll got better as well as the facial sculpting. Very nice dolls though. I haven't seen Serial Experiments Lane yet, but these dolls are really awesome that I'd love to find one for a bargain someday on my thrift hunts. I mean, I doubt it, but you know, a girl can dream. With the 90s coming to a close, let's take a look at the whole reason I started this video with two anime series from the 2000s. Rosen Maiden is a series created by the duo Peach Pit that had somewhat of a boom in the mid-2000s thanks to a meme created by the character Suisei Seki and her strange pattern of speech in the original version, as well as baby Lolita fans marketing every character as a huge inspo for them later. Being a series about talking dolls, of course there would be dolls for them. In this case, Groove made absolutely perfect Rosen Maiden dolls, except Kitakisho was an extremely limited release of about 500 and goes for pretty much thousands online. I actually have almost the entire collection of these dolls due to collecting for so many years, and let me tell you that the quality of these dolls is top notch. The only thing is that Suisei Seki and Solsei Seki's hair quality was so bad that I had to replace their wigs years ago, but other than that, these dolls are just stunning. This doll line was so well made that Groove was tasked again in making Rosen Maiden dolls for the 2014 reboot of Rosen Maiden, including a doll of the fan design character for the 8th Rosen Maiden doll, which I also own and is a very lovely doll. Whoever designed her did a really good job at blending her in with the other designs. This doll line was good, but I feel like it lacked a little extra oomph that the 2006 and 2007 one had, but it could just be me. I also found there were actual real BJDs made of Rosen Maiden that I guess are technically more show accurate, but I couldn't find much information on them because it kept directing me to the Pulip doll line. Still though, these dolls are one of my favorite and most nostalgic dolls in this video, so when I tell you it was hard not to gush, it was very hard not to gush. Finally is a series I never fucking shut up about in this channel, Black Butler. My favorite series about a dysfunctional butler and master received incredible dolls from Groove in 2008 and pretty much got me into the doll collector hobby in the first place because I loved these dolls so much. I quite literally have almost every Groove doll from Black Butler except for Undertaker and the newer Grell doll, both of which are pretty pricey and limited now, so it's impossible to get them without paying a hefty price. The clothing quality on these Groove dolls is genuinely flawless, except the hair quality was absolute dog shit, to the point where I had to replace my Ciel, Sebastian, and Grell's wigs years ago. Oh, also my Grell is a different character, but, you know, still gorgeous. A reboot of these dolls was made for Book of Circus, which used the young boy doll scale for Ciel, since before it used to be the little girl one because the young boy one wouldn't be made until quite a few years after the doll's release. The Sebastian doll from this series is flawless, but I do think the Ciel doll was just lacking a little in the clothing quality in some places, but it might just be me comparing it to the BJD series of the same outfit, which had absolutely outstanding quality to it. In fact, I actually made a Ciel doll with the same face up as the 2008 one, a custom Alois Trancy, and Claude Faustus, because, you know, I'm that much of a Black Butler nut here. With that, that'll be the end of this video, mostly because I know this is going to be ridiculously long and I don't want to go through the 2020s because it's kind of the same very nice high quality dolls made instead of unique or interesting vintage ones. It's also just cool to go through each decade and see how dolls for anime changed over time, from something for little girls to expensive collector dolls that have to be kept in a glass case and away from children. I know I missed a lot of dolls here, but, you know, I'm only human, and a lot of the dolls I did want to mention were kind of boring, or had only one doll of them. So with that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. What did you guys think? Are there any anime dolls in this video you loved, or you wanted to see? As always, let me know down below. Hey guys, thanks for watching! If you liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing if you're new. If any of you would like to help support my channel in any possible way, my Ko-fi page is down below in the description, along with all of my social media. For any subscribers, new or old, who'd like to help with video ideas, or maybe just want to talk about anime or something, I have a fan server link down below. See you next time!